Good morning, everyone. I'd love to have you all take your seats so we can start our breakfast. Welcome to the 2026 Invest in Youth Breakfast benefiting Youth Eastside Services, or YES. I'm Elisa Jaffe, and I am delighted to be returning as your MC for this evening. It's all blurring. I'm retired. What day is it? We are honored that you are spending the rest of your morning with us. We have an inspiring program planned for you as we gather to support children, youth, families, and who are struggling with mental health and substance use challenges. And in honor of National Mental Health Awareness Month, and today, May 7th, which is National Children's Mental Health Awareness Day. And now, as you begin to enjoy your breakfast, I want to recognize some of our generous sponsors for today's event. Because of their generous support, every donation that is made today will go in direct support of YES's programs and services. That's huge. Yes. And we can give a round of applause for our presenting sponsors. Amazon. Yes. Costco. Lynn and Bruce Gibson Foundation, Microsoft, and on the screen behind me, on the back of your programs also, you'll see our title sponsor, our major sponsor, our key sponsors, and our supporting sponsors as well. Let's give another round of applause to all of our very generous sponsors. And we want to recognize all of the people who have helped make today's event possible, the YES Volunteer Board of Trustees for their leadership and dedication to YES, our table hosts for their hard work getting all of you here, yes, to the YES staff for their compassionate and tireless work, which helps East King County children, youth, and families recover, heal, and thrive. And the volunteers who helped get this room set up and will be here to take things down. Also, our youth volunteers, a big shout out to our youth volunteers for all you have done. And before we dive into this powerful morning, I want to take a moment to share a little bit about the organization that's bringing us all together, Youth Eastside Services, or YES. YES has deep roots in our community. It began in the late 1960s when East King County was growing quickly and families were putting down new roots. As our community grew, so did the challenges facing young people. Conversations about substance use and well-being were becoming harder to ignore. A lot of families were affected. A group of local community members began to pay attention. They asked a simple question: what can we do? That question became a small grassroots volunteer effort called the Heads Up Center, a place where young people could come in, sit down, talk, connect, where somebody would take the time and listen. And that center, housed in a small candy shack, was turned into Youth Eastside Services, which now directly serves over 4,000 children, youth, and families across East King County each year. Today, YES serves youth from birth through age 22, offering prevention, diagnosis, treatment for mental health and substance use challenges throughout our community in East King County. YES meets young people where they are, in more than 50 schools across the region, in local community and teen centers, in YES agency offices, and through Telecare Health. And at its core, YES is about helping young people find safe spaces, especially during a time that can feel anything but safe. How many of you have been in that situation? Raise a hands. A little show of hands. Some of you have. Many of the youth YES services are navigating uncertainty from multiple directions. Changes in immigration status, barriers to quality health care, challenges with identity and belonging, trauma of family transitions, and then there's the worry about global events on top of that. YES creates safe spaces where young people can slow down, feel seen, and learn ways to manage these life challenges. And YES goes beyond what most people think of as behavioral health care. They walk alongside families through case management and care coordination, provide services that are culturally and linguistically specific, rooted in each family's unique experience. They offer group support where young people can connect, have fun, find camaraderie, spaces where they can build confidence, learn new skills, and begin to heal from trauma. They partner with schools and community organizations to reach young people early, before challenges become crises, helping them not only get through difficult moments, but begin to see a future for themselves. What you're hearing this morning is just a glimpse of the impact. The reach of YES spans across East King County, touching thousands of lives each year. And none of it happens alone. This work started with a community, and it continues because of the leadership of this community, because of you who choose to join us today to care and to invest in young people and their futures. This morning, we are going to hear from two brave YES clients who have chosen to share their stories. Their experiences are deeply personal, and their willingness to speak is definitely an act of courage. You're also going to be invited to support the YES, the work, the clinicians and community educators who do this important work, and the young people and families who are engaged in this healing journey. And later on in the program, you're going to hear from our special guest, Tim Gunn, as he reflects on his own experiences with mental health when he was young, and what it means to create safe spaces in a world that doesn't always build them. Now, I would like to introduce and welcome Jennifer Ivan, the president of the Board of Trustees for YES.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Jennifer Ivan, president of the Board of Trustees for YES. It's my pleasure to introduce you today to Laura Hitchcock. She has been serving as our interim CEO since December of last year. I'm so excited to let you all know that this week, the Board of Trustees has appointed Laura as our full-time, long-term CEO. Through her time as organization's interim leader, Laura has focused on advancing YES's mission within our communities. She has thoughtfully grown relationships with the greater YES network of employees, partners, donors, and the Board of Trustees, setting YES on a path to advance our community work at a time when support for youth mental health is more critical than ever before. Laura's career spans leadership roles in health, youth, and social services, including the CEO of Washington State Public Health Association, the Director of Public Policy and Community Relations for the United Way of King County, and positions at the League of Education Voters, Early Learning Action Alliance, City of Seattle, and for Public Health, Seattle and King County, where she oversaw youth violence prevention programming. As we welcome this next chapter, the board is fully confident in Laura's leadership vision and her deep commitment to our mission. So please join me in officially welcoming Laura as our new CEO.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I can't hear you yet, though. It's such an honor to be with you this morning in support of youth mental health and as YES's new CEO. And I want to thank you, provide a thank you to everyone who has welcomed me into YES and the important work that we do together. As we get started this morning, I'm going to ask you to take a look around your table or to the table next to yours and just take a moment to say hello and introduce yourself to someone who you do not know, who you have not met before. Let's do a little, take a second to create community at our own tables. Okay. We'll take another pause to say hello to each other a little bit later. As we get started this morning, I also wanted to talk a bit about myself and YES. But first, I want to tell you why I was the most nervous when I walked onto the stage this morning. And it was not speaking in front of more than 600 people. It was also not the fact that I took the bar exam in this room 32 years ago. It was actually fashion. And I was a little worried that I would not do Tim Gunn justice, so I have brought with me my special What Would Tim Gunn Do fashion tote to keep me comfortable during my speech. This is my accessory. And if you'd like a regift, see me afterwards. All right, a little bit more about me. Over the past 30 years, I have worked both as a leader of and alongside many nonprofit organizations, both here in Washington and in Africa, often helping them to navigate moments of transition and step into their next chapter. And my passion about systems in which nonprofit organizations are rooted is one of the draws for me to YES, as I believe that we are not just serving individuals. We're also building a stronger mental health system of support and community with leadership from adults like you. My other passion is speaking openly about mental health challenges and making it normal to address them. I want to take a second to acknowledge our YES public sector partners who are working with us in building this system of support. We are fortunate to live in a community that has not only one, but two countywide programs supported by voters to help kids and youth. Our Best Starts for Kids and our mental illness and drug dependency levies, which provide critical support. And we're also fortunate that our cities and our local school districts here on the East Side each invest directly in youth mental health. Our state legislators from the East Side are nothing short of amazing. Your leadership on youth behavioral health this past legislative session deserves a huge shout out. So I'd like to ask everyone who is an elected or appointed statewide official or legislator, or one of our local government partners, including city, county, or school district leaders, or even if you're a public sector staff member, please stand for a second so we can recognize you. Thank you for your leadership. In addition to my work, I'm also a parent to two now grown kids. I'm a spouse, a sister, an aunt, and a daughter. All of these roles are probably more important than any of my professional roles, and all of them have given me a very personal understanding of how important it is for young people and families to have access to the right support at the right time. And our family, like many others, has not been spared mental health or substance abuse trauma. We have relied on many types of mental health care and healing, and we've learned about and are still learning about belonging and the best way to show up as allies, modeling kindness, love, and calm. This is the world that we want our kids to inherit. And I know that we are not alone in this room in experiencing loss due to untreated mental health needs, discrimination, and exclusion. But I also know we, like others here, are committed to making sure other families have a better pathway and to destigmatizing the conversation about mental health. This is part of what drew me to YES, and it's what I've already seen in my time here. When a young person is struggling, YES shows up with care, with consistency, and with the kind of support that can truly change the direction of a life. And right now, that kind of support is needed more than ever. When we talk about youth mental health, this is not something that is happening somewhere else. It's here in our own community, in our schools, and in families just like ours. And what we are seeing on the East Side, across the East Side, is that too many young people are feeling overwhelmed. Too many are experiencing anxiety and depression that can lead to suicidal thoughts, and more are quietly trying to navigate it on their own. We're still addressing the collective trauma of a global pandemic, and we may not know for many years what the outcomes will be for those who grew up during this time. But I know that you'll agree with me that we simply cannot look away. These youth are the future of our community, our future workforce, and our future parents, and they need our help. And their families need our help. The data helps us to understand the scale of what's happening. Here in King County, Nearly 1 in 10 young people, have seriously considered suicide. And we've lost youth in all 3 of our school districts this year on the East Side. And for some groups, those numbers are even higher. Black and Hispanic youth report the highest rates of feeling sad and hopeless, and Hispanic youth report some of the highest rates of considering suicide. And across our country, more than half of the young people we've lost to suicide are youth of color. These are hard realities to sit with, and some young people are affected more than others, shaped by factors like race, identity, family circumstances, and the broader climate around them. Please know, these youth often have normal reactions to abnormal circumstances, and when they seek help, they are incredibly brave. And we don't just see this in the data, we hear it every day from our counselors at YES. At the same time, the system that is meant to support young people is still under real strain. Families are encountering long wait lists when they try to access care. We know that insurance is expensive and that there's also a real likelihood that fewer lower wage earning families will be able to access Apple Health in the future, our Medicaid program in the state. There are not enough youth mental health providers to meet the need. And in Washington state, there's the shortage of child and adolescent psychiatrists is considered severe. And for many families, even when care is available, it does not always reflect their language, culture, or lived experience. And the challenges that young people are still facing are real, including access to dangerous substances like fentanyl, increased recognition of neurodiversity, such as ADHD and autism, with youth seeking specialized support, and those navigating identity and belonging in a world that can feel uncertain or even unsafe. We're also seeing youth who are struggling because their parents have been deported, and they have fear surrounding their own immigration status. And we know that social media continues to adversely impact youth. And then also, we see that youth feel enormous pressure to succeed academically with uncertainty as to our economy and how they will fit. So when we step back and look at all of this together, a clear picture begins to emerge. Young people are facing more, earlier, and often without enough support around them, and that leads us to an important question. When a young person is struggling and the system is overwhelmed, where do they go? A safe space. It's a simple idea, really, but for a young person who is struggling, it can mean everything. And the good news is, we adults, we do know how to create that safe space. For example, a recent study of the National 988 Suicide Prevention Hotline showed that in its first 2.5 years, suicide deaths among 15 to 23-year-olds were 11% lower than what researchers expected, saving over approximately 4,000 lives. Recent data in Washington state from our Healthy Youth Survey also shows improvement in youth mental health trends. At YES, creating safe space, however, does not point to just one place. It shows up in different ways depending on what a young person needs and when they need it. It might be a YES counselor at school who notices that something has shifted and takes time to check in. It might be a clinical therapy session where a young person can begin to make sense of what they're feeling. Or it might be in a community setting supported by YES staff where connection builds over time and a young person starts to feel like they belong. And even more importantly, it may need to be in all 3 places at the same time, supported by multiple YES touch points. What matters most is not the setting itself, but the experience of being met with care, with consistency, and with understanding, as well as the continuity between the different settings. And over time, those moments begin to build something more stable, a sense that there is somewhere to go, someone to talk to, and a way forward. And for that to be real for every young person, it has to reflect who they are. It has to be culturally and language specific, accessible, and connected to their daily lives. And it has to include families, because when a young person is struggling, their family, like mine, is often navigating that alongside them. It also has to extend into the broader community where young people are learning who they are and where they fit. And it only works when the foundation beneath our safe spaces is very strong and supported. You being here this morning is a huge part of that support. And I would like you to take a moment and just look around the room. There's real power here. when we lean in. I'm really happy to announce a few exciting developments that your support will help YES launch. In the fall of 2026, YES will expand to fully all middle and high schools, as well as 5 elementary schools in the Issaquah School District, giving us a solid presence in all 3 major school districts on the east side. YES is also planning to launch more parent engagement work because we know adults must address their own and family needs in order to show up for their kids. We also continue to focus on building best practices, and were recently recognized at both the American Public Health Association and the Pediatric Academic Society for pilot work in strengthening connections with primary care in partnership with Allegro Pediatrics. I know a number of folks are here from Allegro today. So. Your presence today helps make it possible for YES to keep showing up in these and many other ways for young people, and to continue to create safe spaces where they can begin to feel safe again. Thank you for being here. YES has had the good fortune to be supported by many leaders over its nearly 60-year history, and I'm honored now to be one of them. I want to invite Jennifer Ivan, our current board president, back to the stage to take just a short moment to recognize a key longtime leader for our community, Rich Wagner. And you'll hear a little bit more from Jennifer late in the program as well. Jennifer and Rich, can you please join me on stage?
This will be the second of 3 times you're going to hear from me today. Good morning. I want to introduce you, and many of you already know him, to a person who has shown up for this community again and again and again, with care, with leadership, and with a deep belief in young people. Please join me in honoring longtime YES board member Rich Wagner. I'm going to try not to cry as I go through this. As long as I've been on the board, which is 18 years, Rich has been on the board. It's been an amazing 30 years of the board with Rich on it. Thank you, Rich. Rich has served in so many roles, but what stands out to me is really 3 things. First, he's always been deeply engaged in our building and grounds and facilities work, because that's compatible with his long and impactful career in engineering, real estate, and development. He was instrumental in the capital campaign, which was the work to create the beautiful YES main location in Bellevue at Crossroads 20 years ago. He was incredibly thoughtful about preserving the value of that building, and he had the foresight to establish a reserve fund to be sure we kept that building in the best shape possible. Second, he was an incredibly generous board member in that he and his wife, Jaffe, who is here today, hosted our board social for years at his home and in Bellevue and on his boat, and he's an amazing captain. Finally, he has the biggest heart. He has given to YES for so many years, so generous, so thoughtful. He's providing incredible gifts to YES that will help us be around for many, many more years. On a personal level, I will miss Rich being on the board. He's one of those people in my lives that I will always cherish, I will always admire, and always appreciate. He's been an incredible role model to me and to so many people at YES and on the board. At our April board meeting, the board voted to approve a proclamation honoring Rich. Here are just a few words heartily endorsed by the full board. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of Youth Eastside Services extends its profound gratitude and appreciation to Rich Wagner for his exemplary service and enduring legacy as he concludes his board service in May 2026. Rich Wagner's kindness and leadership have shaped this organization in lasting ways, and his impact will continue to be felt for generations to come. All right, I'll hold it. Do you want to say a few words, Rich?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I appreciate very much this honor, but in truth, I felt honored every day to have been part of the mission and heartbeat of this amazing organization. When I accepted the invitation to serve on this board 30 years ago, I made one of the best choices of my life. Over the years, I've valued every opportunity to help, especially, as Jen mentioned, with fundraising and for the construction of our wonderful building in Bellevue. I've also treasured very much working with the several committees, board committees over the years, where I could offer support and advice. I leave this board with deep, deep, heartfelt appreciation for everyone's support in this room, and with confidence that YES has a strong, exciting future, especially under CEO Laura's leadership. Thank you. I truly step away with pride and satisfaction. And I have a lot of time, right? Finally, finally, 1 minute, I don't know about that. Finally, with lots of love, seriously, lots of love, thank you to my family, close friends, for your support over all these years, especially my wife, Jaffe. I'll mention 3 names only. My son, Brian, who's here from Panama City, Panama, flew up to be here today. And my sister-in-law, Jill, who flew up from Los Angeles, unfortunately without my brother, who temporarily is restricted from air travel. And plus the youngest of my 4 beautiful grandchildren, there he 2.5-year-old Elliot, especially for their adjusting their sleep schedule to be here this morning. Thank you very much. I know that's a struggle. Finally, as I told Laura, I don't need a board seat to continue sharing my thoughts and support for this agency. I'll always do the best that I can. Thank you so very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing us to honor Rich today. I want to say I had a chance to meet Rich relatively recently and discovered Rich and I were both Peace Corps volunteers. So in Brazil, in his case, and in Tanzania, in my case. So nice bonding moment for us. So we've heard a lot about safe spaces offered through YES, and the truth is they are really best understood not from those of us who work for the organization, but from the young people themselves. Because behind every number, every trend, and every program, there is a person. And this morning, you're going to hear from 2 of these young people. They are amazing. Abril and Audrey are both going to speak. They've each had their own journeys, their own challenges, and their own experiences with finding support. They've both chosen to share a part of their story with you today, which takes a great deal of courage. So I'd invite you to listen not just to what they went through, but to what made a difference along the way. Please join me in welcoming Abril and Audrey, who are supported by their 2 YES counselors, Rosanne and Ariel. And we do have a lot of A first names coming to the stage today.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rosanne, a youth and family therapist at YES, and I have the honor of recognizing Abril, or April, here today. April and I started working together at the height of the pandemic, and since then, April has navigated through many challenges. April has demonstrated great strength and resiliency while managing her anxiety. She successfully worked her way as a student during COVID and has continuously advocated for herself to support her academic needs and learning. She's also faced criticism from others, but that did not stop April from continuing to be the best version of herself. Most of all, she's continued to face her own worst critic, herself. April has challenged herself to not allow doubt or negative self-talk overpower her. She has also utilized the support of her family, friends, mentors, and her faith to guide her through many obstacles. April has set out and achieved many personal goals, including becoming ASB president for her sophomore class, obtaining a 3.5 GPA, and facilitating 7 student clubs. She's also an active member of YES's Latino Heat and finds joy in being involved in the community. There's no doubt in my mind that this is just the start for April, and her determination and optimism will carry her well in the future. Please join me in welcoming April to share her inspiring story.
Good morning, everyone. Before I start my speech, I want to say how truly blessed it feels to directly share my beautiful journey. The letter or speech I'm about to read is directed at my 8-year-old self, the same age I started receiving services at YES. Dear 8-year-old April, I won't forget the days where we came back from school and eagerly rushed to turn the TV on. I still remember when we had big dreams of becoming a big sister, being a part of our school's elementary school student council, and most importantly, having a confident relationship with ourselves. At this time, I know we struggled and still questioned whether or not we were going to be successful. I wanted to be a superhero or a popular YouTuber and didn't want any support as I thought superheroes were perfect and they don't need any help. When we walked into our first day at YES, we were scared and confused as we didn't like change. This became a pattern as when we dropped off of school, I still cried for my mom and dad, even in 3rd grade. I asked my mom, ¿Por qué soy así? Or in other words, why am I different? Why do I have to be the kid who is sensitive to noises, smells, the kid who doesn't stand out to others? We didn't realize it, but this is what made us shine. We may have not been at the same level as others, but we were perfect and right on time for ourselves. Over the past years, we were tested with more change. We ended up becoming the most popular kid in our 6th grade class, but didn't end up enjoying it, learning that popularity isn't everything. We also ended up moving to a different school where we left a lot of our friends behind, but knew it was the right change. We also didn't get to be 5th grade president at our school due to COVID canceling elections. And we struggled with anxiety once we got into high school. All of this was hard. We lost the confidence within ourselves, aimed for a 3.5 GPA since 7th grade, and fell short constantly. I won't forget being one of the only kids last year who didn't get recognized for their GPA. It hurt. I also won't forget us struggling in math for 4 years. Each failed test, each sadness always brought me sadness. But, Abril, la logramos. We ended up being okay. This year, we got a 3.5 GPA on our report card, getting an A on our math final. We're also a big sister to a little brother who we love so dearly. We're also part of 5 clubs, such as Latino Heat, where I've gotten the chance to make many friends and awesome experiences happen in the 1 year I've been part of the club. So shout out Tina and Vanessa and Judith. We are now the 10th grade president at our school, and we're currently sitting on a stage with over 600 people watching me. Mind you, I couldn't even go outside in public without being anxious a year ago. Every change, every cry, every fear, every frustration, every April comeback made this possible. We showed up and are confident and love ourselves more than the Earth Service can hold us. We didn't do it alone. The 1-hour talks we will look forward with Rosanne, our devoted teachers who teach for me and have seen me grow, and my mama and papa who have never stopped believing in me, even when I wasn't the best version of myself. Like Rosanne once said, it takes a team to create a village. So in honor of everyone here today, every kid, every human being on this earth who is doing enough just by waking up, remember, it isn't what level of smartness or how much you achieved within a day. It's the mentality to truly chase the things you desire. You can have a bad day or think negatively about it, or you can use it as the next comeback like I did throughout my middle and high school journey. Thank you. I love you all.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ariel Kang, a co-occurring youth and family therapist at YES. It's truly an honor to stand here today and introduce you to someone whom I've had the privilege to work with and be part of her healing journey. A young woman who is intelligent, empathic, and inspirational. When we first began working together, the weight of post-traumatic stress disorder and anxiety was profound, something that many people experience as routine, like eating, had become filled with fear, distress, and painful memories. What others might see as a small action often demanded immense emotional strength. And yet, over time, I witnessed something remarkable, and that is persistence. Healing from trauma rarely happens in a linear way. There were days that felt heavy, days when progress seemed slow, or having no progress at all, and moments when simply showing up required tremendous courage. But she continued to show up again and again with honesty, determination, and a willingness to try. Most importantly, I've seen her begin to reclaim her sense of safety, choice, and self-trust. Progress in trauma recovery is not measured by perfection. It's measured by courage. The courage to try one more time, to take one more step, to believe, even briefly, that change might be possible. Today, I would like to celebrate that courage with you all. Please welcome Audrey to come and speak about her story of mental health, and I bet you will be moved and inspired by her just like I did.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Audrey, and I first began attending therapy when I was in 5th grade. While I had always dealt with anxiety, during that time in my life, my mental health got substantially worse. I had just lost my grandmother, who I was very close with, to ALS, while simultaneously another person who I relied on deeply was struggling with substance abuse. I began feeling so anxious, I struggled to eat, go to school, or see my friends. I started seeing a therapist who was kind and supportive, but after seeing her for a couple of years, I was still unable to overcome my challenges with eating. I eventually stopped going to therapy and for a time was not seeking any professional help for my mental health. For a while, I was doing okay. Although I was able to start high school and see my friends, my anxiety placed major limitations on my life. It made me feel afraid to eat breakfast or lunch at school, go on family vacations, and just live my life as a teenage girl. I grew tired of the constant fear I was feeling and told my mom I wanted to seek help. Around that time, my mom happened to hear through my high school about Youth Eastside Services. When I first began seeing Ariel, the constraints anxiety had placed on my life felt permanent. Things like eating at a restaurant that are effortless for many people felt impossible for me. During my appointments at YES with Ariel, I slowly regained hope. We started small and brainstormed ideas for how I could challenge my fears in a manageable way. Sometimes things didn't go as planned. I would have a panic attack and my anxiety would get worse, but Ariel's guidance enabled me to persist through those especially difficult times. I began to realize that even if my anxiety worsened or I had a panic attack, it didn't mean it wouldn't get better. My meetings with Ariel have not been the only support I have received at YES. Over time, I also began seeing a psychiatrist, which allowed me to find medication that worked best for me, and I joined a therapy group, which gave me the opportunity to connect with other teenagers who are dealing with challenges similar to my own. I am so grateful for the system YES has set up, where clients can receive all the resources they need in one place. I did not have to go out on my own to find a support group or psychiatrist and then carry the burden of coordinating between them. Instead, the mental health providers I saw already knew each other and were able to work together to best help me. Since receiving this care, the challenges I have faced have become more manageable. But more importantly, I have grown more confident in myself. I still get anxious and sometimes have panic attacks. Before, I would do everything in my power to avoid that feeling, including not eating. Now, I have learned to recognize that no matter how anxious I get or how terrible I feel, it will come to an end. In the past, if I was eating and started having a panic attack, I would immediately stop eating and feel incredibly afraid to start again. But recently, if I have a panic attack when eating, I can take a break and then eventually resume, which I was never able to do before. A few years ago, I didn't think I would be able to go to college. I was terrified of just spending one night in a hotel, and I didn't see how my anxiety would permit me to move away from home. I am now nearing the end of my first year at the University of Washington. Thank you. I lived in a dorm this past year, and I've already signed a lease for my apartment next year. Go Huskies. Being able to attend college has helped me gain the confidence to do more. It has shown me that I am capable of doing things that in the past have felt unattainable because of my anxiety. The support I have received from YES has helped make this possible. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my experiences, and thank you to the staff at Youth Eastside Services who have so greatly benefited my life.
Me again. Hello. Let's give another round of applause to those incredible youth speakers. And let's be honest, they're the reason we're here. They're the reason all of you got up so early and you're here now. You know, I was just particularly struck by their courage, their honesty, their determination, and they just did such a great job. Peter, I bet you had some thoughts too.
Yeah, well, first, my heart goes out to them and all of the young people that are facing adversity today. But what struck me was their resilience in the face of that adversity and their courage to seek help and choose to grow. It was amazing.
Yeah, amazing. Our role as trustees is to support YES organization, and each of us brings our own individual time, talent, or treasure. We also bring our own lived experience. In my case, it's a very challenging childhood that makes me appreciate all that YES does to support youth in our community. I've also benefited from my own kids getting the support from YES counselors. As the president of the Board of Trustees at YES, I see a side of leadership that isn't always visible. The board's job is to protect the mission, ask hard questions, make sure resources are used wisely, and to plan so this organization isn't just here for today's needs, but strong for tomorrow's challenges. In the moments that matter most, leadership is the courage to see a need early and humility to step in and serve. Think about a time when you watched someone quietly lead. Maybe it was a neighbor who checked in during a rough season, a teacher who stayed late for a student who was falling behind, or a teammate who spoke up to make sure the right thing happened. None of those moments required permission. They required character. They required someone willing to say, if I can help, I will. That is exactly what our mission is about, turning concern into action and action into lasting change. Real leadership doesn't stop at empathy, it moves towards outcomes. It asks who is being left behind, and then it builds a path forward. So this morning I want to offer you a simple definition of leadership. Leadership is using what you can do to create a goodness where you are some people lead with time, some people lead with expertise, and some people lead with influence. And some lead with financial generosity because they understand that money directed with purpose becomes momentum. Because leadership can be taught and practiced, I've asked a fellow board of trustees, Peter Gruening, who leads teams every day as a Costco corporate executive, to share his perspective and invite you to act. Peter?
Thank you, Jennifer. In my work as a corporate executive and in the leadership programs I teach, I often remind people that leadership isn't a position, nor is it the title on your business card. It's a practice. It's what you do with the authority, influence, and resources that you've been given. And being a leader takes a lot of courage. We heard some amazing stories of courage from Abril and Audrey already today. Unlike those two young ladies, it took me some time to understand that principle, and YES had a part to play. There are two defining times in my life that brought me to YES, both as a board member and as a donor. My first experience was in the early 1980s when I was in high school, just down the street in Issaquah. Back then, YES was known as the place you got sent for class if you got caught drinking. As someone who experienced trauma in my adolescent years, I started drinking at about 14 years old. I only later understood that I was just trying to numb some of the grief and the shame that I felt. Throughout high school, several of my friends, in fact, most of my friends, got caught and they were sent to YES. I was not. You know, at the time, I thought it was a source of pride, actually, perhaps thinking I was more sneaky than my friends, or maybe even a little smarter than they were. Over time, however, I first wondered, and then I later wished I'd been caught and sent to YES, because for years afterwards, I continued to find courage in a bottle. It was only after a few close calls and some pretty big adversity in my life that I decided to grow. The result was a 15-year journey of hard work and therapy to discover my courage, become a leader, and turn into the person that I am today. While things turned out very well for me, I've been blessed with a great life, an amazing family, and a wonderful job. I have always wondered how much grief and really hard work I could have avoided if I'd just been caught like my friends and sent to YES back in high school, and how much further ahead I would be today. The second experience with YES involves my children. My daughter was born anxious, and it's been part of her entire life. My son, his journey was a little bit easier, all the way up until the pandemic. That's when things changed for him too. With my encouragement, both of my children sought the help of mental health professionals, and with their support, were able to overcome their anxiety. I am proud to say both of my children are thriving young adults today. Now, I work for an amazing employer, Costco, with amazing benefits and support for employees and their families. Having that backing took the burden away from finding the right help and to figuring out how to pay to get my kids support. It allowed everyone to focus on their mental health. So why YES? Why should you give? The day one of my kids called me for help, telling me they hadn't been able to leave their apartment at college for nearly a month due to anxiety, that was a rough day. I can't imagine getting that call and having nowhere to turn, nor the means to support my child. But I know that's the predicament that many parents and young people find themselves in today. I don't wish that on anyone. I hope you agree and will show your support by joining me in donating to YES today. A gift might look like a simple number to you, but on the other side of that number is something tangible. A young person gets one more day of support. A young person who has a mentor that shows up consistently. A community that can respond faster the next time a need arises. Or perhaps a family like mine that just has a moment to breathe. Thank you for coming today, and thank you for your willingness to donate.
Thank you, Peter. In just a moment, you'll have two simple ways to respond with your own leadership. You can scan the QR code, or you can fill out a pledge card at your table to give. Give what feels meaningful and sustainable for you. If you're able to make a leadership gift of $1,000 or more, thank you. Those gifts strengthen the foundation that everything else stands on. And if your employer offers a match, please take advantage of it to multiply your impact. Additionally, I'm thrilled to share that 100% of our board members have contributed to the Champions for Youth, papers are sticking together. Champions of Youth Giving Circle Matching Pool, and together they challenge you to join them and stretch your gift today. We'd like to give a big thank you to the Champions of Youth Giving Circle members listed in your program. Thanks to them, your gifts of $500 or more will be matched, ensuring that more young people can access the care, connection, and hope they need. When you're ready, scan the QR code and complete your gift, or fill out the pledge card and leave it on the table for our volunteers to collect. Thank you from the YES board and from the two of us for being here, and thank you for giving.
Check in a long time, that's why it's so quiet, right? You're learning how to do it? Okay. Why don't you grab a chair right here, Tim?
I'm delighted to, thank you.
Look who I found.
We're dress-alikes.
And we didn't even know.
No.
How weird is that? So thank you, everybody, for your incredible support. Really appreciate. And this morning, as we have been talking about the importance of safe spaces and the power of leadership, this is a person who knows all about that.
Well, you're very kind to say that, thank you.
You really do. Our next guest understands the impact of this firsthand. Tim Gunn is an Emmy award-winning host, author, mentor, so well known for his work on Project Runway. All of us were panicking about what to wear this morning.
Including me.
Including you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm matched. I can't do that. That's too matchy-matchy. What do I do?
We didn't plan it, so
no,
it
we
counts.
did not. But those socks, so cool. Anyway, also known for Making the Cut, where he inspired millions with his warmth, wit, and signature.
And that was thanks to Amazon.
That was thanks to Amazon, and here's our Amazon table. That's why you got to sit with them, huh? That was pretty neat. But beyond his professional accomplishments, Tim brings something even more meaningful to this conversation, because as a young person, you faced profound challenges and shared how one counselor really took the time
Yes.
to listen. And you know what? We haven't even welcomed you.
Oh,
Hello,
no, please.
Tim Gunn, everybody.
Oh, no, thank you. It's a sincere honor to be here, thank you.
Let's go back to that time, because we're talking about a lot of young people, and it probably really got you today when you see them and you think about them getting help and
It
where
got
you
me.
were. It really did, didn't it?
It got me.
How old were you when you realized something's not right?
Elementary school. And I have to just say, I need to assert, listening to the young people today, in fact, everyone who's spoken, the word courage is so consistently used. I don't believe when I was a kid and a young, a kid and a young teen, I don't believe I possessed that courage. I was more of someone who wanted to shelter and hide. And I'm in awe and have a great admiration for those who do display courage, because it takes an enormous amount of tenacity to move forward.
Interesting, too, you and I both being on TV, we've done all this stuff, and we both have that same thing where we wanted to hide. And here are these young people who haven't
Yes.
had that experience, and they're speaking out. Did you hide? Did you go so inward that there were some real challenges for you?
Oh, most definitely.
And can I do this? This is such a fashion faux pas.
Oh. I wanted to make certain you know who I am.
I gotcha. Okay.
Well, I was a very peculiar kind of kid. I was socialized, but I wasn't antisocial. And I had wonderful parents who raised me in a very responsible way, I believe. I hated school, but I loved learning. And what I hated about school was the social aspect. So I intentionally really didn't cultivate friends and rebuffed people who wanted to be friends in a way that would frequently offend them. And that wasn't my intention, but if it kept them away, I was happy. I didn't engage in any team sports. I ended up being a competitive swimmer, though. It's something you can do alone. Well, it's a solo sport in a way, and it's clean and you don't sweat. So it appealed to me. But my parents were very concerned about this isolation that I was engaged in. So they sent me off to a boarding school.
What grade?
I was 13, so I guess that's
Seventh,
7th,
eighth.
yeah. And I'll just share with you, my first night there, I took all the pills that I had found in my parents' medicine chest. I'd taken them with me, and
But what were you thinking?
I wanted to kill myself. And the next morning I woke up, and I had kitchen duty. I mean, this was a school that didn't just wait on you. You waited on everyone else, too. And I was so horrified when I woke up, and I had this terrible ringing in my ears, and I had kitchen duty, which I attended to, and then I ran away from the school.
So wait, you tried to kill yourself, you got up, you went and you did the dishes and stuff,
Yeah.
and then you ran away?
Yeah.
And didn't talk to anybody about what you went through?
Not until I returned to the school having thought, what am I going to do? I don't have any money. Certainly didn't have a cell phone. I can't contact anyone, and I need help. So I knocked on the door of the house of the assistant headmaster and just burst into tears and flooded him with all this concern. And the next day my father came.
You know that was a moment of courage, right?
Well, I think you're kind and generous to say that, thank you. But my father came, he had made an appointment at a psychiatric hospital in New Haven. I went, I was really disturbed by the treatment I received because basically, and I was just there for a check-in.
So you didn't feel like a safe space?
No, not even remotely. I remember I met with the head of psychiatry there. You'll love this name. His name is Dr. Blank.
Oh. I'll tell you about the Dr. Hyman I interviewed too, but that's another story.
But I spilled my guts to him, and he looked at me, deadpan, and he said, "So what?" I was
Really?
Yeah, I was just completely taken aback by that. So we left, and I don't recall asking many probing questions, and perhaps I didn't, perhaps I did, but 3 months later, my parents came to me and they said, there's an opening at this hospital, the Yale Psychiatric Institute, which is really for adolescents and young adults. And you're going there. So this is allergies, by the way, this is not.
I got it too, yeah. So if I'm crying, it's really my eyes are watering. Yeah.
So I was a young person who always thought, I can outsmart these people. I can beat them at their own game. I'm not going to agree to being hospitalized. So once again, I went to the medicine cabinet, took all the pills that I could find, and I was really cagey, and this is not nice. I sewed them into the lining of my bathrobe. So that, because I knew they were going to go through everything, looking for things that could harm me. So that night, once again, like the boarding school, I took all those pills and woke up not only with a terrible ringing in my ears, but no vision in my right eye. So I thought, oh, so I walked to the nurse's station and I confessed and we went to the emergency room, I had my stomach pumped, and then I ended up being in seclusion, this suicide prevention area, which is like, what do they call it in jail? Solitary confinement. I loved it. I didn't have to interact with anyone because I hadn't been there long enough to really know
You figured out
anyone.
exactly how to get where you wanted to go.
Yeah, and I did. So the psychiatrist I had at that time saw me 3 days a week, and again, I had that whole fixation about I can outsmart him, and my strategy was to not talk. I would just sit there and not say anything. And
How'd that work for you?
it was great. After about 20, 25 minutes, he would say, well, there's no reason to continue, goodbye. So after 3 months, his residency was over and I had a new doctor. And I have to say, there was something about the new doctor that the former doctor didn't possess. It was a sense of presence, of really being there, and of authenticity. I just felt,
You were heard, you were seen.
yeah.
And how old are you now? Like
I'm 14.
14?
Yeah. So,
Because that's the year I lost my father to suicide, so I can put my head into that space.
yeah, I'm sure you can. So I thought, well, in spite of the fact that I'm feeling better about this doctor, I'm going to still outsmart him. So I did the whole, I'm not speaking. And he said, he didn't dismiss the session. He said, we're going to sit here whether you speak or not. And whenever I would look up, he was looking at me. So he was really present.
Wow.
And after a week of this, 3 days a week, he said, I've been thinking about this 3 days a week. I don't know that it's what you need. And I'm thinking, oh, good, we'll go down to 2 or 1. And he said, I'm going to see you 5 days a week.
So you just had to sit there and look at him for 5 days a week?
Well,
or?
he broke me down. And he broke me down through silence, really, by just, I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere, and you're not allowed to leave the session early.
So then let's flip that for the people in this room who are saying, oh my gosh, I'm trying to find a safe space. I've got a 13-year-old, a 14-year-old who's not talking, who I know has some stuff going on. What would you say to them about somebody in your situation?
Well, that life is not a solo. I mean, life is a huge collaboration, and we need people to help navigate this world, to help us navigate it. And I learned that through this doctor, Dr. Goldblatt, who is still in practice, by the way. And I saw him for the remaining 2 years that I was there. I was there for 2 years and 3 months. It was a long haul.
What changed for you, or did it? I mean, I don't know your mental state right now, but
It's good.
okay, good. I didn't want to really get into it too much in front of all these people, but
I mean, I will say, after Dr. Goldblatt, and he gave me skills to navigate life and to deconstruct and analyze what my thoughts were and what I was going through. He gave me very important skills, and he did it so well that, of course, after I left the hospital, it was recommended that I continue to see a psychiatrist. I tried a couple of doctors, but no one measured up to Dr. Goldblatt, and I would hear his voice in my head, and it's all that I needed. It really helped me tremendously.
so were people not there for you, or were you not opening the door?
When this was all unfolding?
Yeah, I mean, because before that, for you to only have this one doctor, what was going on? What was up with your parents?
Well, they were engaged in family therapy 1 day a month. So they drove up from
tried.
Washington, D.C. I mean, they were very supportive and very present, but also I would imagine very frustrated, as was I, because I really didn't see where this was going, except that that hospital became my safe space. The staff were wonderful. I made lots of friends because you look around and everyone's very much like you. And they're scared and they feel a need for support, and we would support each other.
And if you didn't have that safe space, how do you think that would have been for you as you continued on the career path that you have? Because
I wouldn't have had the career path.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't have happened.
Because if you think about it, when you hear your old thing, one day you're in, the next minute you're out.
Yeah.
That happens
It
in
does
your
happen.
industry.
Yeah.
And so are you prepared for that kind of life with what you were given, or?
Well, I have to say part of what a huge part of what made me certainly who I am today is education, and in particular, one experience that led to a whole series of wonderful things. And the one experience was, I'm back from the hospital, I'm about to go into my senior year of high school, and I really want to take an art class. And it was at a museum school in Washington, D.C., and I loved every single second of it. It was a drawing class, and what I loved about it, what was so awakening and unshackling was, the answer wasn't in the back of the book. The answer was within me and within each of the students in the class, and everyone had a different answer. So I boldly approached my parents about enrolling in their college. And those 4 years really changed my life. And I should add that there are some sidebars. I wanted to be an architect initially, and I studied architecture for a semester, and I thought, this is the quickest trip back to the hospital I've ever had.
Well, there's an endorsement.
So, it was before computer-aided design, so you're pulling a stylus with India ink, and if it bleeds, you're in trouble. So I studied there for 4 years, met teachers who became my mentor. They were mentors, but remain mentors. And curiously, after I graduated and thinking, what am I going to do? I majored in sculpture. And I ended up building architectural models for 3 firms in Washington, D.C. to make a living.
Really?
And then I was invited to teach, to be a teaching assistant to one of my mentors. And I loved it. And that was a summer class for high school students. And then about a month later, she called and she said, I just had someone drop out who was teaching 3-dimensional design. Would you do it? And I said, well, I wouldn't let Rona Slade down. I mean, she was so important to me. And I said, well, of course. But I have to add that first week of class, every single morning I threw up in the school parking lot. I was so terrified.
Really?
And I would have to brace myself against the back wall of the studio because my knees would be shaking so badly I would topple over. So I was rehearsing my...
That was to teach a class?
That was to teach a class.
So did you barf on Project Runway all the time, too?
Oh, no, that was, Project Runway was,
Okay,
was 24 years later.
So you had it down by then?
I had it down by then. But I will tell you, during that first week, I was rehearsing, how do I go? By the way, when I get nervous, I stutter, and part of my childhood trauma was that I had a debilitating stutter. Anyway, that's another sidebar. So I was rehearsing how to tell Rona that I couldn't do this anymore. So I'm sitting with her like this and going through my issues and how the school and the students would benefit from someone else. And she looked at me and she said, I trust that this will either kill you or cure you. And I'm counting on the latter. Good day.
Good thing.
Good day. And who knew I would end up being a career educator?
Right.
I mean, who knew? I didn't. And it was, I'll also add, as I think it's somewhat important, things happen for a reason. I say this all the time. My mother hated it when I would say that, but they do. So I'm teaching at the Corcoran. It's 1982. There's a call for me from Parsons School of Design in New York, and they say, we've heard a lot about you, what you've been doing at the Corcoran, and we'd like you to come up and interview because we'd like to consider you for our faculty. And I said, no, I'm extremely happy. I love Washington, I wouldn't consider leaving. And in the next year, my entire life changed. I mean, not entire, but I had been in a very intense relationship for quite a number of years, and he ended it. And I was devastated, absolutely devastated. And
Did you have the ability to take care of yourself then, or what?
Yes.
Okay.
I did, and I had been monogamous. He informed me that he had been sleeping with everything around, and this is the advent of AIDS. So I thought he could have, so I went from being just self-pitying and sad and forlorn to really feeling angry. I mean, he could have given me a death sentence. So almost a year to the day from 1982 to 1983, Parsons called again. And they said, we're not giving up. And I said, I'll come up, I'll interview. And 2 weeks later, I was there. And I was at Parsons for 24 years. Yeah, so I wore the hat of a faculty member and then later an administrator. I was made associate dean. And it was in my associate dean role, I was a kind of Mr. Fix-It, but I called myself a pooper scooper. And I would say, this place has to stop pooping so much. And the fashion design
You
department...
even say that nicely. I'm like,
The fashion design department was having a crisis of leadership, and I was sent there to fill in for a semester, ostensibly. And I didn't know anything about fashion. I mean, that's not true. I knew about fashion in broad strokes. It was an important department at Parsons, but I had no vision or illusion about being there for longer than a semester. And I ended up feeling very, like a very paternal steward to the department because there were all sorts of myths about its success and why it was successful. And when I was there, I realized this place is a big, hot mess.
so did you see kids who needed your heart, your wisdom, and your mentoring to
Yes.
make it through this? Tell me about a situation that you saw and you go, oh my God, that's me, I gotta help this kid, or...
Well, there was a jewel in the crown, ostensibly a jewel in the crown of the senior year program at Parsons called the Designer Critics Program. And it would pair, rather arbitrarily, 5 or 6 students with a top designer, Donna Karan, Tom Ford, Mark Jacobs.
Name dropper.
But that was the whole point of it.
Right.
So I had students coming to me saying, this is really not helping me. I'm not, and to be a little more specific about it, the Designer Critic Program was all about teaching students how to be an assistant to a designer. Well, at this point, it's 2000 to 2001, and the fashion world has changed. Because this Designer Critic Program went back to 1950. So we're now in a period where the industry is looking for young entrepreneurial designers, and this program wasn't doing that. So students were coming to me saying, how can I find myself? How can I work with Donna and still be me? Well, the answer was, you can't, and you have to do the best you can through this. I was so enraged by the whole thing, though, and by the amount of control and frankly arbitrariness that this program had, that I took the juniors that year. I assembled them, there were 70 of them, and I said, how many of you came here for the Designer Critic Program? And almost all the hands went up. So then I asked, what would you say if I wanted it to go away? And there was silence. So I asked, don't you know what you'd be doing? You're not just going to sit around. So I said, you will design and execute a mini collection of anywhere from 7 to 9 looks, and that will be your senior thesis. Well, they were ecstatic. They were on their feet, they were cheering. So I asked, how many of you were terrified? Oh, a couple of hands went up, and I said, every hand in this room should be up, because you've never been faced with a challenge like this. This entire program has been leading to this infantilization that is the Designer Critic Program. So we moved forward, and it didn't help that the beginning of that academic year was also September 11th. So it was a kind of a metaphor for what had happened because the fashion industry was furious with me about this because for them, 70% of the designers on 7th Avenue were Parsons educated. So they were loyal to this program, whether they liked it or not. And they felt it was the school of hard knocks that everyone should experience. And I didn't. I thought this is just this is not moving the needle forward.
So you were rather controversial when it came
Extremely.
to that.
And
Did you build a Teflon kind of?
Well, you know, really for me, it was about what's right for the students. And that propelled me forward. It wasn't about popularity or the faculty being upset. It was about what is right for these students. So they were my cause celeb, really, and my gauge of whether this is working or it's not. Though, I will add, we always had an end of the year annual fashion show, and in the former construct with the designer critics, we didn't tell anyone this, but the fact of the matter was every single garment got into the show. Every single one. Well, the students were only making one garment a semester. So with 7 to 9 garments per student, we can't have a 4-day fashion show. So there was a serious...
I could deal with that.
There was a serious jury process. It was over 3 days. And the jury, and I, to a degree, selected the work for the show. Well, it meant that there were a lot of looks that weren't in the show. And to be specific, there were 14 students who had nothing in.
So when that happens, let's talk about what happens to them and their hearts and their mindset when their stuff isn't making it in there. And
Well,
you know what it's like
I do
to
know.
be left out.
So I met with all 70 seniors to talk about the outcome of the jury process. And we had 12 collections that were in their entirety. We had, I can't remember the exact number, but collections where 1, 2, or 3 pieces were in. And we had 14 collections that weren't in at all. And I said to the students, I want you to know the common denominator here. Was it that the work wasn't well executed? Sometimes. Was it that the work wasn't properly conceived conceptually? Sometimes. Was it that the work wasn't installed in a comprehensive way because they put everything on dress forms? Sometimes. I said there's one common denominator here, stubbornness. Not one of the 14 of you allowed any input to embed in you, to process. So the outcome of that was that there was a petition calling for my resignation and a meeting with Women's Wear Daily, which did an article about it. But what was so interesting was the 14 students who weren't in the show weren't part of the petition. It was the students who only had 1, 2, or 3 looks in the show. They were the ones who were so upset. And I just...
That's neat. They're supporting their peers, right?
Well...
In a way.
Yeah, in a way. But the show was uneven, to be honest. And the work that really resonated with everyone happened to be the comprehensive collections, the collections that were in their entirety. And when Barney's was still around, and it was then, Julie Gilhart, the head buyer for Barney's, bought one of the collections right off the runway.
One of the student collections?
In its entirety.
That's pretty big.
Yeah. And not coincidentally, it was a collaborative collection, 2 young men who wanted to work together. And when this was declared in September of that year, the faculty, unbeknownst to me, all told them, no, 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 you two cannot work together. This isn't fair. So I got the faculty together and I said, what do you mean this isn't fair? Well, it's not fair to the other students. There are 2 people working on this collection. I said, well, it's not going to be 7 to 9 looks. It's going to be 14 to 18 looks. And what is this industry if not a big collaboration? So it was a marvelous, I won't even say coincidence, I think it was earned that this collaborative collection is the one that Julie Gilhart would have selected. So I know I'm not directly answering your question.
No, you went pretty far off, but that's okay.
I speak elliptically, and I own it.
But what I'm listening to, though, is I'm thinking about how you succeeded. You pushed up against things where before you would have hidden.
Yeah.
And now you have this voice. Is it always there?
Yes.
How'd you do that?
Time and experience and respect for others, respect for myself, and a real sense of caring for our fellow human beings.
So when you hear this kind of conversation in here and you think about creating safe spaces and stuff, what's stirring in you when you think about what's happening in this room and the people trying to make a difference and the kids who are trying to make a difference in their lives?
Well, the fact that they're seeking support from YES is fantastic and wonderful and will propel them forward, and it means that they know how important it is to have a collaborative relationship in order to really find yourself and soar. And that's a step that I wasn't willing to take on my own, and these young people are. I mean, I wouldn't say that they didn't struggle with it earlier, but they've arrived just as I finally arrived.
But when you were 14 and you were told you had to go do this, were you okay with that, or did you?
No, that's why I sewed all the pills into the hem of my bathrobe. I thought, I'm out of here.
Yeah. But you dealt.
Yeah. Well, yes, I did. I mean, it was an intervention of sorts. But it's so important to have people who are, as we were saying earlier, authentic, in the moment, mindful, present, because we're all different. I mean, it's not as though, everyone has to have these characteristics, but if we talk about the broader characteristics of mindfulness and empathy and truth-telling, you may know, my last book, The Natty Professor, I take the word teach and turn it into an acronym. So T is for truth-telling, E is for empathy, A is for asking. I pummel people with questions because I need a context to know where they're coming from. C is for cheerleading, which is very important. And H is letting go, hoping for the best. That's all you can do. I had a refrain with my students and with the Project Runway designers. I can't want you to succeed more than you do.
That's pretty big.
It is. And I would frequently say to my students, why do I feel more invested in this work than you are?
So today, with not being a part of Project Runway, but being able to still get your message out there, how are you?
I've never been better.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I'm very happy to say I'm very happy. Well, there are other things that are happening in this world that don't make me so crazy.
We'll go into that later.
But no, I feel extremely fortunate, extremely blessed. And I'll just repeat, I do believe things happen for a reason. We can be in the lowest, darkest time ever, and look what can happen. You can really ascend out of it. And I should add, the Project Runway producers found me in my office in the Parsons Fashion Department and sought me out because they had heard from a lot of people the kind of dramatic change that had been made at Parsons. And they were looking for a consultant. They weren't looking for anyone in the role that I ended up having.
Well, we appreciate you being here, taking the time, opening up, being so truthful, and
Well, thank you.
and just thank you.
Well, it's an honor to be here. It really is.
A big thank you to Tim Gunn for joining us today.
And we're all in this together.
We are all in this together, and as we bring this program to a close, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here this morning, for showing up, for listening, like Tim said, when you're listening and being there, being a part of the community that chooses to lean in and care for young people. To our table host, yay to you for your leadership, for bringing all these people together and helping grow this community of support. And as a small thank you. Tim's going to be available for photos with you in the lobby immediately following the program. Before you go, feel free, though, to take home a centerpiece from your table as a token of your gratitude. And we hope you leave today reflecting on how even one person can make a difference. One conversation, one safe place can really change a life. So thank you for supporting YES. And have a wonderful day. Thank you. Great.
You're a superb interviewer.